Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Smoke Pit. So when you think military recruitment, you don't generally think comedy. You might think to yourself, man, what a fucking joke. But you're not thinking set up punchline, haha. Well, a Virginia National Guard recruiter named Staff Sergeant Tyler Butterworth is kind of changing that perspective. This guy has taken to social media, amassed quite a following, and is putting out some really substantial comedy around his endeavors in the recruitment arena. I'll let him tell you about that. So with no further ado, Staff Sergeant Tyler Butterworth. Ty, welcome to the Smoke Pit.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You're a Virginia Guard recruiter.
Yep.
How long have you been in?
I've been in for about 17 years now.
17 years, okay. I will give you fair warning, man. On the way out, watch out for my mother. I think she's still angry at every recruiter alive
Don't blame her.
that has ever lived,
Yeah.
just stealing their children away from her.
That's what they think.
What was your recruiter like?
Honestly, I don't even remember who he was.
No shit.
You know, the one thing that I remember about him was how he got me sold on the job.
Okay.
So
And what was his pitch?
It really wasn't pitch. He gave me the ASVAB. I did pretty well on it and everything. I could choose almost any job. And then I remember him sitting me down in the office, and he popped in a bunch of VHS or DVDs, whatever they were at the time. This is back in 2006.
Okay.
So he pops in all these things, and I think I saw Medic first, and then the next one that popped up, he pops this thing in there. I'm watching on the TV, and I'm like, man, this looks pretty cool. And it started off this big muscular guy. He's got a 249 saw, and he's shooting it from the hip, and then he gets a grenade out and throws it into the third floor window of a building, and the whole building blows up. And I'm like, you're telling me I can do that? And he's like, yeah. And that's how I joined the infantry.
Holy shit.
Right then and there. Done
Wow.
deal. It was great.
He basically just played you like a trailer for Call of Duty, and you were like, yup, send me.
I mean, yeah, it worked.
Amazing. I kind of went in knowing I wanted infantry. I knew I wanted some kind of combat arms. I was pretty furious about 9/11, and
I was the same.
yeah,
Yep.
I just wanted to drop bodies. That's it. I was that angry guy.
I was too. Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
Fairfax.
Fairfax. All right, so you were around here.
Mhm.
So when 9/11 happened in Pentagon, that must have hit you
Yeah,
kinda
so I
close
was
to
in
home.
chemistry class in middle school.
Shit.
Yeah. So I remember coming home and watching it on the TV, and then I was that crazy kid that in the newspaper they had all the terrorists at the time, and
Yeah.
I would actually cut them out and put them in a little box in my room, and my mom's like, he's 100% going to join the military now. And so I did. I think she still has that little box somewhere. I got to find it.
I'm sure. I mean, that's not something you get rid of. That's
No.
That's amazing. That's a vintage shit right there.
Yeah.
You make baseball cards out of them or
yeah.
something.
Yep. Yeah.
So tell me about it. You go in. Where did you end up? Did you join the Guard or
I
big
joined
Army?
the Guard. I've been Guard the entire time.
Okay.
So I joined the Guard, and the reason I chose the Guard is that was the only recruiter that could tell me, you for sure are going to be in Iraq or Afghanistan within a year. And so I was like, all right, that's what I want. I didn't join for any of the benefits or the college money or security clearance or anything that we kind of sell as recruiters now.
Yeah.
I wanted to go overseas, and I wanted to, do harm to bad guys. That was the thing.
All right.
So
Did you get that chance?
Sometimes, yeah. But we, I don't know. It was a good experience. I knew what I wanted to do, kind of starting off, and
Yeah.
I got there.
Nice. So how many tours did you do? How many times did you go over?
I did 2 tours to Iraq, one in 2007, and the other one was in 2011.
Nice. Where were you in 07?
We were at Al Asad Air Base, but we were all over.
I'm trying to think. Where was I in 07? 506, I was in Baghdad Sadr. 607, I was stateside. 708, I was about 60 clicks south of Baghdad in Babel province, I think it was.
Yeah.
So you were you're out there?
We were Hit, Ramadi, TQ.
Okay.
We went all the way up to the Syrian border. I mean, we were all over the place.
Wow. If you were bouncing around that much, what was the mission?
We mainly did convoy security
Okay.
back then.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was good.
It's a good time for that. That was
Yeah.
when they were sort of introducing EFPs and really fucking
yeah.
people up. So
Yep, absolutely.
It's
It
a
was
fun time for
dangerous
that.
time.
How'd you end up on the recruiter side?
So I did both deployments. I came back. I was actually sitting on a rooftop in Baghdad, and a guy that was a police officer back here in Virginia, he's like, hey, you should maybe think about this. And I'm like, all right, well, I did the firefighter thing in high school, so maybe I'll try the police thing now. So came home, got a job as a police officer. I did that, a couple different roles, detective, all that kind of stuff. Had some kids, have a farm and all this, and I realized I was chasing a bad guy one night, jumping fences, guns out and all that, and he's got a gun, and I jumped a fence and I lost him. I don't know where he went, and so I kind of realized in that moment, I got a little kid at home and a wife and new family and everything. I'm like, this is not the safest job for me right now. So that's when I was like, you know what, I can go back to the Guard and be active as a recruiter and make a little more money and probably a lot less danger. And so that's what I did.
It looks like you're having fun, man, because your
I am.
social media presence, just on the Army's behalf, is spectacular.
Yeah, I love it.
So what got me was you did this video, Gen Z buzzword training.
Oh yeah,
for some of the older.
No cap. Yeah. Yeah. Sergeant Beasley, he's got the Riz. Oh yeah.
This is incredible. I'm watching this going, I mean, this has to be real, but I'm not sure. So of course, I run it past my teenage daughter who's like, "Yup, I understood every word of that."
Oh yeah.
So now, to this day, when she just rattles off at the mouth shit I don't understand, I just look at her and go, "Rent free."
Yeah, rent free. Yeah.
Yep, that does it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was a good one.
But I mean, there's relatability in that, man. Like there's this tremendous disconnect, it seems, from like us older dudes to the guys that you're trying to get in nowadays.
Oh yeah.
Talk about that.
So the reason why I started all this social media stuff, specifically like Instagram, right? So I went to we go to all these high schools doing high school recruiting displays and all that. Every branch does that. Yeah. So go in there and you stand there in front of or behind the table with all your swag that you got out there, and you try to incentivize the kids to come over and talk to you. So I realized very quickly that it's not that effective. It can be, but I asked these kids, I'm like, "Hey, what's your phone number?" They don't know their phone number. So then I ask them, I'm like, "Okay, what's your Facebook?" The first kid I asked, "What's your Facebook?" He's like, "Huh." My mom has Facebook. I'm like, "Whatever, dude." Yeah, okay, cool. So I'm like, "What do you have?" And he's like, "I have Instagram." And I was like, "Instagram? Tell me more." So I didn't have Instagram. I had a Facebook because I'm that old dude to them. So I watched a bunch of YouTube videos. I basically turned myself into a 16-year-old girl at the time, watching YouTube, trying to learn this Instagram thing. Like I'm looking at all the trends and everything at the time. And I'm like, hey, this is what they're doing. This is how they're communicating. Why don't I learn this? This would be much more effective than their mom hanging up on me on the phone.
As moms tend to do.
Oh, yes, they do.
Yeah.
So I kind of went into that. Everyone I enlist at this point, usually on the way back from MEPS, I'm like, all right, teach me a new word. Teach me something I don't know. Teach me a new buzzword, like our training, Riz, no cap, rent free, all this kind of stuff. And so far, I haven't learned a new one in the last 2 MEPS trips.
No shit.
Yeah.
Is it just drying up, or are the kids just getting too old that they don't have their finger on the pulse anymore?
I don't know. I mean, it's like these words are invented out of nowhere, and I mean, once they use them, then it's very easy for me, especially being on social media, to pick up on them now, and then if I have to, I can just ask. I mean, I don't know. I teach my own parents these words now.
Wow. I'm pretty good at learning new languages, but this younger generation of slang just not for me, man. It's not intuitive.
I don't know, but it's effective. It's effective if you can learn it. Because I tell you what, these kids walking by the table, and I'm like, "Hey, you want a backpack?" And the kid's like, "Really?" And I'm like, "No cap." And they're like, "What? Sheesh!" Doing all this. It's hilarious.
They just start firing back.
Oh yeah. It's like their brain just clicks. They're like, "Oh my gosh, he can speak our language.
Holy shit!
He knows what we're saying."
This is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it works.
So the DoD obviously is making this tremendous push, this effort to sort of relate to this younger generation. Is it going well, or are they missing the mark?
That's a great question. I don't know. I think there's a way to speak to this generation in the way to do that is through social media, in my experience, in my opinion. All of this is my opinion.
Sure.
I don't think that these television ads and stuff like that are effective. I think that if they're on a streaming platform, on Netflix or Hulu or any of these things that these kids are watching, that, yeah, probably it's effective. But if you're not doing what the kids are doing or relating to the trends right now that these kids are watching, I mean, I was sitting in the parking lot waiting to come out here, and there's a probably 50, 60-year-old woman sitting next to me watching videos on TikTok of like dancing trends and all this kind of stuff. So
Okay.
if you're not doing something for the target audience that they're actually watching, I don't know how it would be effective nowadays.
So let's talk about the target audience. Well, like what is that age range that you're?
It depends. Like you can break it down a lot of different ways. If I'm looking for non-prior service or I'm looking for prior service as a recruiter. But for me, most of the time it's between the ages 17 and 34, which is that's the age range that we're looking for in the military,
Okay.
or at least in the National Guard. So as far as high school goes, I'm looking for the age range of 16 to 20. You can kind of curtail what you're putting out there to those specific age ranges based on the platform even.
Okay. Because one of the biggest complaints that especially from older folks from our age group, is that how the hell does the military intend to recruit when they're going fucking woke, and there's all this, but like, dude, they're not trying to get us, man. They're not.
And that's one of the biggest enemies of recruiting, and some of it I can understand. Everybody's entitled to an opinion, but at the end of the day, the people that are doing the most complaining are those that have already been in the military.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have all the, whatever the term is that people call them nowadays, the people that served before and that have these very strong opinions, and they have not been a recruiter now. They've not interacted with this generation now.
Yeah.
And I will say that with all of that being said, and all of the negativity that people say, the military going woke, again, everyone's entitled to an opinion, but my opinion is that the generation that I'm recruiting right now and the kids that I'm actually putting in are fantastic. They're no different than me or you. I mean, These kids are scoring a 90 on the ASVAB, and you know what job they're choosing? Infantry.
Mm.
And you know why?
Tell me.
Because they want to serve. They're not doing it for the benefits either. They're doing it because they want to belong to a brotherhood, sisterhood, whatever it is. They want to be part of something bigger than themselves. And that's why I do what I do. And that's why I enjoy it.
It's amazing to hear that mindset is still active, that it's still out there, that it exists.
And I will tell you, when I first realized that it was still out there, when I first saw it with my own eyes, when I had a kid in the car on the way back from MEPS after he enlisted into the infantry, and you know what he asked me? He's like, am I going to learn how to use a bayonet? When that kid asked me that question, I was like, yes, you're going to learn how to use a bayonet. Like, I'm going to keep doing this job now. You know what? This makes me happy. Watch me enlist all these kids into the infantry now.
Oh, that's
the right
amazing.
ones.
The right ones. I guess that's what it boils down to, is the right ones.
Exactly. The ones that want it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to imagine, like, these, this no cap, rent free generation having that burn in their gut to, get fucking cross rifles pounded into their chest and
makes me
hit
proud.
the field.
Makes me proud.
We had 9/11. The kids you're trying to put in today, they didn't have some massive inciting incident that absolutely changed their life and that the landscape of the nation for the rest of their lives. Instead, right. They're coming off the tail end of a 20-year war that would scare anyone in their right mind to repeat. I mean, that's got to be a little bit of an obstacle as well. No,
it is. It's just where they're finding their motivation, where they're finding their need to serve or want to serve. It was easy for you and I, watching that on TV, watching it happen, or maybe you experienced it in person, any of it, family members, anybody that was lost during that motivated you or I to join. It's no different than anything that could motivate these kids now. There could be a single point in their life or a single event in their life that motivated them to want to do that. It could be somebody like you or I talking right now.
And that's true. Even when we went in, there were a ton of people who just strictly wanted to drop bodies after the towers fell. But there were a lot of people who went infantry to piss their dad off, or to it was the only job they could get that would give them the college money to do something bigger and better later.
Yep.
Or they were just sick of their hometown and wanted to get the fuck out. there's still a lot of that. In spite of having a 9/11 to point to and go, that's why I want to do this. People still have all kinds of other reasons.
Yeah, exactly.
So the social side of it. Actually, yeah, talk a little bit about that. Just the process, because I mean, so you go to these recruiting events, you're learning all these new buzzwords, and then you gotta engage with them on social media. Like, what's the process like?
Well, to me, it's just like any job. If I see like a current trend on social media, it's like the creepy like ASMR of like people eating and all that kind of stuff. It's like that's super weird to me, but some people are into that. So the way that I think the way my brain works is I see that stuff now.
Yeah.
And from the social media side, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make a super creepy ASMR video about me like opening an MRE and like all the congealed fat and like squeezing like, but stuff like that. I'm probably going to turn off a lot of people by doing a video like that. But those people that like those super creepy ASMR videos, they'll be like, whoa, this is great. You're telling me I can eat an MRE like this? Maybe it'll work.
Yes, the squish of that chili mac.
Oh yeah, delicious.
Which I'm assuming has to be your favorite MRE, right?
The chili mac.
Yeah.
So they had the beef ravioli. That was my go-to back then.
We started off on such a good foot.
I mean, the chili mac is probably a close number 2, but
Okay.
I will tell you the fudge brownie came in the beef ravioli, and that's why it was my number 1.
Okay, fair enough.
What's your least favorite?
Least favorite? Oh my God!
I'm gonna walk out if you get this answer wrong.
It's Country Captain Chicken.
Country Captain.
3 C's of Death.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad. It would be the spinach fettuccine Alfredo now.
Oh God, I don't think I've even come across that.
Oh man, we'll have to bring you one next time. They're really great. We should do like a podcast of like ASMR style of eating it.
We should,
Be
and
gross.
just be like an MRE potluck.
Yeah, it'd just be.
We could each bring a few favorite MREs and a few least favorites.
I tell you what, everybody in the military would probably watch it if it was the spinach fettuccine one, because that's probably the number 1 most hated MRE right now.
No shit.
Yeah, from what I've seen.
Is it relatively new, or has it been around for a minute?
It's been around for a couple years. It's been around long enough though.
Long enough.
Long enough.
Maybe too long.
Like the veggie omelet. That one was just. Oof.
I'd rather starve.
Yeah. Just eat all the snacks.
Yeah. And of course, as a grunt, I'm sure there's one thing, no matter what MRE it comes in, you don't fucking eat.
Are you talking about Charms?
Of course I'm talking about Charms,
Right.
yeah.
So I have never had an MRE with Charms in it.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know if I missed out on that.
I hope that means they finally got rid of it.
I think so.
Because, I mean, Charms, that brings fucking rain in the field. It gets your buddies killed.
Right. And that's what I've heard. I've heard that,
Yeah.
I learned that coming into the military, but I've never actually received an MRE that had the Charms in it. So maybe they were gone by the time I got in.
I hope
don't know.
so. I hope so.
You know what they're bringing back allegedly?
Allegedly. What are they bringing
So
back?
you remember the little Tabasco bottles?
Oh, yeah, your stay awake potion?
Oh yeah,
Sure,
yeah.
yeah.
You, like put it in your lip with your dip or whatever. Delicious. So they took those away and they replaced them with these lame little pepper sauce things that are, it's spicy. So I opened an MRE the other day for a video we were doing. Obviously, we try not to eat those at the office. Sometimes you get real hungry though. So I opened it up and there was one in there. And so I like sprint into the other office and I'm like, "Hey, did you guys see this?" And they're like, "Yeah, they're putting those back in there." I was like, "Oh, this is great."
Did you ever do the MRE cracker challenge?
I have participated in the Cracker Challenge. I have never succeeded.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what was your strategy? Because I've done it and I've accomplished it. What was your strategy going in?
I really didn't have a strategy. My strategy
lies
was
your problem.
I mean, I guess I did. My strategy was to assemble the largest crowd of fellow infantrymen
Okay.
to surround me, and my goal was to see who I could make laugh the hardest. So basically, I was just trying to spew crackers out of my mouth everywhere, and
Got it.
I succeeded there.
Okay. So you weren't actually trying to accomplish the challenge.
No,
you were just being theatrical.
Exactly.
Okay. For the sake of being that guy.
That's what I've been known for.
Was that you? Were you like that guy in the platoon that
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was constantly getting smoked when I was a private.
Yeah.
We did our train up in Camp Shelby, Mississippi. It was super hot, but I became known as the barber in our platoon because I was really good at giving a number 1 buzz cut. No other skills. So my team leader, who was a coal miner from West Virginia, super super smart, tactical wise guy, he asked me to cut his hair, and so I cut his hair, and I may have left a small patch of hair on the back of his head. Well, he walked to the shower, and some sergeant major saw him, and he was like, "Hey!" Yelled at him, and he comes back in, and he's like, "B-Dub!" And so next thing I know, I'm low crawling down this drainage ditch that's filled with water next to the barracks, like all the way back and forth until he's getting tired. So yeah, I got smoked on the hood of the Humvee in Ramadi, in the city one time.
In the city.
In the city.
Now,
Yeah.
what did you do to get smoked on an op?
He asked me how to spell something, and I intentionally spelled it wrong in his Blue Force Tracker message back to battalion. And so they sent a message back, and it was like, maybe you should spell check next time or ask. And I earned that one.
I mean, did you deliberately spell peninsula like Penis?
It may have been something like that.
It was probably a little phallic, if I had to guess. Yeah. We don't want to violate OPSEC here, but we can speculate.
Yeah, he got me good with that one.
It's funny. I was just having this conversation with someone not too long ago, about exactly that, about grunts just going out of their way to get smoked. Like, let's see who we can piss off today.
Man, we had to do porta potty guard in our motor pool. We had like a bank of like 4 porta potties in there.
Yeah.
And so guys were going in there and doing their best artwork. And I guess the first sergeant got real tired of that. So they said the next piece of artwork, or he was a postman in the United States, so everybody would write First Sergeant Mailman all over the porta potties, which he was not a big fan of.
Sure.
Yeah, not the best idea. So anyway, he found the next drawing in there, and the next thing we know, we had to set up an ECP around the porta potties and check IDs.
Oh my God!
I think we had a 240 position. We filled sandbag. I mean, this was like a full-on.
You probably fortified the hell out of it.
Concertina wire around it. I mean, it was intense. Yeah.
Yeah. We had to do something similar. It wasn't an actual guard post, but we basically had to. Well, we chose to. Our mission was to fill 1,000 sandbags, and it was actually just one NCO who had to do this because we like to get our birthday punches in, and he delivered a couple of birthday punches to this a soft skill. What was he? He was an NBC guy.
Oh, nice.
Attached to our company, so didn't have that leathery.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, he claimed that he was peeing blood because you got punched too hard. So our NCO's got to fill 1,000 sandbags. We're not going to let him do it by himself. So we're out there, taking part in the shenanigans, and we end up building like this giant glass house
out of to do it.
Yeah, rooms to clear and some furniture for bad guys to hide behind.
Yeah.
And then when we were done, we just ran drills through the house.
Yeah, training value.
Yeah, training value, exactly.
Physical fitness and training value, all in one.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
But no, first sergeant rarely likes when their training or their corrective training becomes a means of entertainment.
Yeah, no, it's never a good idea.
They don't have a sense of humor about that shit.
I went back on my second deployment to some of those same porta potties, and the artwork was still in there.
Get the fuck out.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, it really lasts.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's impressive. I would only expect that to last in Kuwait.
You would think, yeah.
Yeah.
It was something. I was blown away when I went in there. I'm like, wow, the memories. It smells the same.
What else you got? What other kind of fun shit did you do on deployment?
We had there's a Marine Corps sniper position outside of our main gate, and for some reason somebody had a great idea that when convoys are coming in, these big long lines of tactical vehicles with soldiers or Marines or airmen, whoever it was in it, not the enemy. It's
right.
Very kind of obvious.
Yeah, stands to reason.
Well, it made sense for us our turret gunner, if you were in the lead gun truck, you had to hold up your ID card. That way they could validate, hey, those are the good guys down there. Hey. So we had the great
Wait, this
idea.
is SOP, or you just started doing this because it seemed safe?
No. We were told, like, hey, the convoy's coming in, you need to hold up your ID card. First vehicle, Vic, hold up your ID card. And you'll get cleared to enter.
No, this makes perfect sense because if an entire element of like AQI or
Yeah.
ISIS is going to capture an American unit,
And I
they
mean-
got your vehicles, right? They got your equipment, they got your uniforms,
Right. Everything.
but they won't think to get your CAC card.
Exactly.
So if you can present that,
So what I thought would be more beneficial for the Marine Corps snipers was to make a larger CAC card. So there was plenty of cardboard to go around, so we made a very large CAC card out of cardboard that then I would hoist out of the turret and stand there like this. And I'm sure the Marine snipers are up there looking at me through their spotting scope.
turret
and
gunner
rifle,
with a
like,
sign.
So yeah, we're constantly joking around. It's part of it though. It's part of why I love it.
One of the things I miss the most is the barracks. Tell your future enlistees what the barracks is like, or at least what it was like in our day.
I mean, you got to think you're part of a family. You're part of a large family of maybe up to 40 people in your family.
Sure.
And you're all going to sleep next to each other. So you're going to learn everything about everybody in there. You're going to learn who snores, who doesn't, who talks in their sleep, who wets the bed, who walks in their sleep, all this kind of stuff. So you can imagine, just like your brother or you or sister or you like to joke around, all of your other family members are going to joke around with you in the military.
Sure.
And so sometimes people's feelings get hurt. Sometimes people take it too far. But at the end of the day, we're all friends. We're all a big family. So, and the barracks will make you realize that very quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's a very diplomatic answer. I might also add to that just like a big weird 40-person family, you might see your fucking uncle jump out of the shower ass naked to chase one of your cousins around with a bat.
It is possible.
You might you might see your older brother rappelling off the second story of the barracks with your younger brother's 550 cord. Like this shit happens.
Yeah, there's I mean, I'm trying to think of some of the better stories. I don't know. I mean, back in 2007, that's when, from what I know, that's when digital cameras became like kind of a thing.
Yeah,
so,
kind of ruined a lot of things.
I remember the first digital camera. I've always been into photography or videography or whatever it is. I've always thought it's cool. So the first little not little, it was actually huge digital camera that I had that, the memory card can hold like 100 pictures or something. I'm like, man, this is crazy. You don't have to get it developed. You can just plug this in. So it would take some video too. And I still have that camera. I still have some of those videos. And a lot of it are the shenanigans of the barracks, whether it was the haircuts or me just, getting yelled at, get that camera out of my face, like that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's good, and that's one thing on the camera side and video side I'll say is, if you're in the military now, take pictures, take videos, because when you're out of the military or even later on in your career, you're going to want to see those pictures. You're going to want to look back on all those buddies that you had, and maybe still talk to them, maybe they're gone, but you'll have all those memories. So that would be my advice. I know that's not what you asked, but
no, that's fair. And again, to piggyback off what the LT said. Also, maybe be careful who you show those pictures to. And make
Very
sure
good.
you know what's on your camera roll before you start sharing. I'll tell you a funny story about, the new age of digital cameras, right? This is like 2006, 2007. My buddy and I were both SOG, Sergeants of the Guard. So periodically, one of us takes a lap around the patrol base and checks in on all the privates up in the guard tower. So my buddy leaves his rifle behind with his 203 and his camera. So what am I supposed to do at this point, right? He left me no choice. So I
took some photos.
Dropped my trousers. I might have put myself inside of a 40 millimeter tube and taken a picture of this. I left it on his camera. So he goes home on mid-tour leave, not too long after this. And he's sitting on the couch in Killeen, Texas with his mom, showing her pictures from Iraq. And she's scrolling. Daniel, what the fuck is that? He's like, oh shit, no, are these your balls? No, those are Goldie's balls. How do you know what Goldie's balls look like? So yeah, be aware of what's on your camera roll when you're sharing that with family.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because those kind of pictures end up on your camera.
Yep.
Yeah. So what are your comedic influences? I mean, there's not a ton of like military movies out there with great recruiting scenes. I mean,
Yeah.
Stripes had a pretty decent scene at the recruiters. In the Army Now with Pauly Shore and Andy Dick had a pretty good recruiting scene.
Right.
What were some of your comedic influences?
For me, it's always been, I grew up watching Mad TV and Saturday Night Live, but I would say the number one for me would be like Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell was big, military theme comedy. I've never really been into. I've never listened to it, watched it, anything like that. It's always been
Okay.
the like civilian side, old school. These old Will Ferrell movies, older,
Yeah.
now.
Now.
But watching those, Paul Rudd, any of these guys that are in that kind of comedic circle, Jonah Hill, I could name a bunch of them, but those guys, I watch that movie and I watch these kind of movies in the way that they do comedy, and it's like, man, I wonder if I can adapt that and make it kind of military related. So what if I could be like the Will Ferrell of the military? Like that would be pretty cool. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do. What I've tried to do with some of these videos is kind
Okay.
of impart some of the stuff that I see on TV or movies or what's popular or was popular when I was younger,
Yeah.
and then bring that into the military.
So we go from I mean, obviously Will Ferrell was huge on SNL, but no, that kind of makes sense. That sketch comedy approach to social media, because it's got to be short,
short,
and
yeah.
digestible, and
Capture the attention. You
Yeah.
want to have something that you open your phone and you're scrolling, just like the old lady I was telling you about out here.
yeah,
She's on her phone, and then something gets her attention, and she watches for maybe 5 seconds, and then. So if you're gonna make these videos, you gotta be quick. You gotta have something that's like bam in your face, and then you're like, oh wow, this is like I'm intrigued. This is dramatic, or this is funny. Like you gotta have that,
okay,
and so that's what I try to do. I don't know. I feel like Will Ferrell's funny to me. Like those guys are funny to me. So it's like if I can kind of do a spoof of them, or like let's say The Office, Steve Carell and Dwight Schrute, Rainn Wilson, those guys, like gold. Like that you can't beat that. I know Vet TV did a recruiting office kind of thing.
yeah,
We did a couple where basically I would watch the opening scene of The Office, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna rewrite this to make it like The Office. And so we did that, and that one went viral like quick, because it was like people were like, man, this is like The Office but in recruiting. I'm like, that's the point. And it's like, man, this is. I did that. I started writing some of the original like skits that we do, and I'm like, man, I really like this. I like the creative process. I like the, learning how to what makes people laugh,
yeah.
and that to me is the best part.
Is figuring out what does it for other people,
Exactly.
like what gets other
Like,
people
what
off
makes you laugh,
comedically.
what makes me laugh, and then how I can make those two different people laugh at the same thing.
Okay,
Like that's what I think is neat. And then once I figured that out, not that I've 100% figured it out, I just try every day. I'm like, how else can I improve this? And that's when I started learning the video and audio and all that kind of stuff, and then the editing process to make it even more like captivating or cinematic.
what's the big thing you want to accomplish? Like, do you want to carry a piece of media as a leading role? Do you want to write? Do you want to direct? Like, what's the loftiest goal you've got as far as like media and creativity goes?
I would love to be an actor. I would love to be in a Netflix series or a movie or something like that. I mean, anybody that's ever been in front of a camera, that's probably what their goal is. They're like, man, I want to be in a movie. If I was standing next to like Will Ferrell, I'd be like, it'd be so cool. But no, I mean that would be a goal. I think better utilizing social media for advertising, branding, marketing, that kind of thing is something that I'm very interested in as well.
Okay, the business side of it as well.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, and if you can make a couple of bucks acting on the side.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
What about writing? Because I mean, you obviously write all these. Do you have any dreams to write something?
I've
Bigger?
never really gone down that path of how I can whether it's monetize or how I could do something like that writing wise,
Right.
because I would. I mean, everything that you see is, if it's an original thing and not just a voiceover, is something that I've written. The guys that I work with, we all kind of go back and forth, and just like we're doing here, if we're coming up with new ideas, we're going to talk about it. And so that's what we do. We just kind of sit around and, I'm like, hey, you guys want to do one about The Office today? And then we're like, okay, well, what's going on right now that we could put into this? And so there's one that we didn't do that we're sitting around talking, the whole balloon thing. Remember the big
the spy balloon?
I think it's a weather balloon.
Roger that.
Yeah. So the big balloon, right? So
I remember this white balloon. Go for it.
Yeah, I remember thinking like we could write a recruiting office kind of episode for this, and I don't remember why we didn't do it, but it was something to the effect of like the Air Force recruiter, mailing us something in the mail, and all it says was like Air Force 1, Army 0. And then we're like, that was the idea, but then we're like writing a script around it and all that, and that's kind of how it goes. That's how we come up with stuff. Like what's popular right now, or what's in the news that, obviously we're not going to do anything that's against the military. I'm always going to support it.
Sure.
But we kind of look at that stuff, and then I'm like, how can we make that funny, but with good taste at the same time? And that's essentially what I do every day.
Okay.
I'm constantly thinking. On the way here, I probably saved 4 different things that I was listening to. I'm like, man, I could probably turn that into something.
What kind of stuff were you listening to that you thought you could kind of convert? And
songs, lyrics of songs, or just what's that guy's name? Hans Zimmer. Like,
he's a composer. He does
yeah. James Bond or whatever. All those songs. Like I listened to that song, the like James Bond theme song, and I'm like, man, I could use that. And I'm like, okay, how could I use that? I'm like, well, it could just be me with the new squad designated marksman rifle that we just got recently, and it's like that thing comes with a suppressor, so it's like it'll just be me screwing the suppressor on with that music, and then when it does the that thing, it'll be like how I feel every time I put a suppressor on. like that kind of stuff. I don't know, it's just the way my brain works.
Yeah, your brain has basically rewired to think in terms of social media.
Yeah, or the creative aspect of it. Like what would be funny?
Any larger pieces of media that you're working on currently?
No, not really. I haven't really done any kind of long form content. It's something that eventually I will get into. I find that much more difficult than the short form. And it's funny, the people that do long form that I've talked to, they're like, oh yeah, short form's way harder. And I'm like, I think it's the opposite. But I think it's just because it's whatever you're accustomed to doing.
Yeah.
It's just like we talked about, I think before we started, how the podcast, right? This is easier for you to have these conversations and to do a podcast.
Yeah.
But if I put a video camera in your hand and like, hey man, let's make some videos, might not be as easy for you, and vice versa. If I'm sitting here interviewing you and asking you and leading a conversation, that's a lot harder for me.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, long form, you can set things up. I can take my time setting up a joke.
Exactly.
I can set up a punchline. I can set something up now that's going to pay off in the next act.
Yeah, exactly.
Come full circle. You got like 15 seconds.
Yeah, and I mean, the way I look is, okay, making content, doing social media is not part of my job. Like I'm not paid to do any of that. Like I do that for fun.
Right.
So if I'm going to do that, I want it to be like quick. I want it to be like, hey, you, let's make some videos. Here are the ideas. And then we might knock out 10 videos that we do in one day.
Jesus.
We shoot everything, and then I organize it on my memory cards and all that kind of stuff and computer. And then when I have time in the evenings or whenever, I'll edit it. And then I have a bank of edited stuff that I can put out to where I'm putting out a video a day. And that's what I try to do.
Okay. Sick.
But the long form stuff, yeah, you're right. Like I would love to be able to just sit and like, oh man, this would be funny, and then that would build on this and all that. Like that would be great if I could do that. But I don't have the time to do that right now.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
One
yet.
day.
Someday.
I hope. Yeah.
Now, screenwriting's fun, and honestly, man, you're good at telling stories. You know, you tell a complete story very well in 15 to 30 seconds. And honestly, I think if you really did want it to write for the screen, I think you could pull it off.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, definitely, man.
I went to LA recently. I met Mike O'Hearn. So he's like the guy in the memes, the "Baby Don't Hurt Me" one, where
Yeah.
he's doing all the poses and whatever.
Uh-huh.
And so you see these videos, and I basically took a green screen of him from YouTube. There's YouTube shorts of green screen, and if you know what you're doing editing wise, you can just use that in your videos.
Okay.
And so I did that. I was like, I found a Mike O'Hearn of him, with all his muscles and everything. So I put him into one of my videos, and I made it look like he's walking into my recruiting office, and I'm like, whoa. But the caption was, "I'm here to join the infantry." And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
So I did that. Mike, I think he commented and liked the video, and then he followed me, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like, this is the guy. This is the guy that, is in all these memes. I mean, it's super popular. And so I sent him a message, and I was like, hey, Mike, it would be cool to do some videos with you. And he's like, I'm down. And so I went to L.A. to see one of my friends out there and do some video work. And I landed in L.A., and I'd never been to L.A. before. Have you been?
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah.
I live on a farm. Did I say that?
Yeah.
So we literally land. The plane comes in, and I tell you what, if there had been like RPGs and like explosions in the city and like gunfire going off, when we came through that like layer of smog, I would have thought I was back in like Baghdad or something.
Well, I mean, it's LA, so there
wild.
probably were explosions and gunshots going off that you just didn't see.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, man, this is nuts. So anyway, I landed there. I did a story on Instagram, and I was like, Mike, I'm here. Let's do this. And I didn't think he's gonna, do anything. So he sent me a message. He's like, Monday, 09, Gold's Gym, Venice Beach. I was like, sold.
Shit.
I'll be there. So I went. I met up with another National Guard recruiter in LA there, and I was like, hey, you want to go meet Mike O'Hearn with me? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, let's do it.
Yeah, who's going to say no to that?
Bring the swag, man. Get him a sweatshirt. We need a 4XL or whatever.
Yeah.
So we go down there with my buddy who's a videographer, and we go in there, and I'm like, I was kind of nervous, this is like a celebrity. And so I walk in, and the guy at the front desk is like, how can I help you? And I'm like, well, I'm here to see Mike O'Hearn. And he's like, Mike, who? I was like, Mike O'Hearn, the Baby Don't Hurt Me guy. And he's like, oh, we kicked that guy out of here. And I'm like, what? And I mean, I was like, oh, well, I didn't know. Maybe I went to the wrong one. And he's like, yeah, maybe you did. And I was like, oh. He's like, I'm just kidding, man. Mike told us to mess with you. I'm like, what? I'm like, I couldn't believe it. This guy has a sense of humor. I was like, all right, this is a good sign. So I had a bunch of infantry brochures. He's in this back room talking to all these, bodybuilders, Mr. Olympia, and
the gym
all
bros.
this stuff. Yeah. I'm like, man, I'm the smallest dude in here. And so I walk in, and I have these infantry brochures, and we're kind of like standing there awkwardly waiting for him to like turn around. And so I'm like, whatever, I'm a recruiter. Watch this. And so I have an infantry brochure, and I walk up to him and tap him on the shoulder, and I'm like, sir, I wonder if you have some time to talk about the infantry. You look like you'd be a great candidate for it. And he turns around and like was a good sport about it, and he's like, well, I actually don't read that well, so can you tell me this stuff? I see that one. That looks like a rocket launcher. I'm like, yeah, that'd be perfect for you, Mike. And so he's like going back and forth. He's like, I got this amount of time. Let's make some videos. So we shot video for probably an hour and did a bunch of different stuff. And so far I've put out one of those videos. We have a couple other ones that I'm going to put out. But
Nice.
And now to the point where I'm trying to see if we can get it approved where he'll come here to Virginia to interact with some of the soldiers here. We can do it for the recruiting and retention purpose.
Sure.
And because, what better way for these guys to see that, these larger people appreciate them. And so that's kind of my angle that I'm trying to do with him.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and super nice guy. Like, just he texted me when I landed in Virginia. When I got home from LA, he's like, hey man, I just want to say it was nice meeting you, hoping you got home safe, blah blah blah. Like,
Oh, that's so cool.
super nice guy.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's always nice when you meet someone and they live up to your expectations.
Yeah, I mean, and especially like everybody in LA, you know, I've never been. You know, I'm used to talking to people face to face or shaking your hand or all this, and my buddy that I was there, he's like, man, I hope he doesn't blow us off or, you know, any of this kind of stuff. And I was like, nah, he seems like a nice guy. And my wife even says, like, you always think the best in people, and I do until you cross me, and then I'm like, nope, you're done. But so I had that going into it. I'm like, he's probably going to be a super nice guy, blah, blah, blah. My buddy's like, ah, man, I don't know. He's probably going to stand us up, blah, blah. And so when I met him in person, I was like, yeah, he is a nice guy.
Nice.
And so it worked out.
Well, I saw that one piece that you put out with him. I'm looking for the rest to come out because that was entertaining as hell.
Yeah, well, I'll show you one before I leave.
Okay. Yeah, please and thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. You still wanna shoot some content while you're here?
I mean, why not?
Outstanding.
Brought my camera.
Oh, sick.
Good to go.
Well, shit, man. Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's do it.